Hello BookTube, welcome back to AusBooks where I'm just talking about some Australian books I own, and we're still very much in the First Fleet era of these books. We'll eventually get out of it soon, trust me, but we have a very interesting journal today because we're going to be talking about the one, the only John White and his journal of a voyage to New South Wales. Here is the ebook version. You can get it on Project Gutenberg and all that because it's literally prehistorically old by now. And who was this John White? Well, he was the chief surgeon on the First Fleet. We have a journal from the chief surgeon on the First Fleet, a surgeon in the 1700s. Doesn't that sound fun to be? He was also there with the settlement of Port Jackson too. And the journals are pretty much divided into two different sections really, because the good chunk of the journal is very much what you expect when it comes to John talking about all his stories, dealing with convicts. He did go across all 11 ships pretty much, just checking on people, seeing what they're up to. Do you need any help? I've got some help. He complains about not having medical supplies. Everything you'd expect. He talks about all the ports they went to along the 8-month journey, and just general stuff you'd expect. He did spend most of his time in the ship of Charlotte, which is a convict ship, so he saw a lot of stuff and all that. But it's pretty much him just doing these journal reflections. They're very interesting and very brutal. But the journals change when John White arrives in Sydney, pretty much, because yes, he does help establish the first hospital in Australia, which is a really cool thing. But little did he know he was going to enter a new era in his life. He was about to become obsessed with flora and fauna. He went on to rest of the journal pretty much is just about his interest in that stuff. He helped discover ants and plants and animals and plants and ants, like just everything. There's 65 he documented in his journals, like literally everything you can find. He's like, I'm gonna write this down and observe it. It's really interesting. Again, this man, considering the animals that Australia has and what he was witnessing with his own eyes as someone who had no clue what he was getting into, is very interesting to see. Even he's confused at some points. Little did he know that it was going to confuse many more people along the way who try to learn about Australian animals, looking at you, Charles Darwin. But this is like the Australian, like older version of something like The Origin of Species, because even though it's very obvious that John White was a novice when it came to this type of studying and all that stuff, he was so passionate about it. He even commissioned watercolor drawings too, which you can look up. They're so pretty. I know there is a physical edition of this book that's been reprinted in like the last 10 years, and it has all the drawings, and I don't own a copy, but I really should, just because they're so cute. And they were done by Sarah Stone, who was a painter. And yeah, that's pretty much it. He's like, I saw this plant today, and it's really lovely. And John stayed in Australia for a long time because, again, he got there in 1887 or 1787. So I don't know why I get my years confused, but he left in 1789 because he grew to absolutely hate Australia. He got so sick of it. I have a quote from him about Australia. He said, Australia is a country and a place so forbidding and so hateful as to not only merit extraction and also curses. So he hated Australia by the end. And as soon as his approval to leave got accepted, he was out of here. What else did he do? Because I wrote this down. He left and he went back to England, and then he died in 1832. So he went on to retire probably, and done his stuff. It's just very interesting. Again, along the way, he talks about how he adopted an Indigenous boy because he became an orphan because of the smallpox outbreak, and he's like, I'm going to help this kid. He also talks about the big diseases that were going on in the first colony too, like again. Syphilis, not syphilis, I can't remember the names of them, but you're there. It's just really interesting to see this man go from in his medical era, his field, this is what I do, and it's just him writing about what he experiences. Then all of a sudden be like, I am gonna look at plants and animals, and I really love it. It's so good. A great pairing if you go to read John White's journal, because they're not that big really. is another great pairing is Arthur Smith, Smyth. He also had journals documenting Australian wildlife and all that, and he was on the First Fleet too. But he's just not as interesting as John White. I'm sorry, Arthur. Yeah, he's just, I don't know. I thought he's a good, if you like John White, go do him too. I don't think Arthur Smith's in print anymore, but John White definitely is. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a very interesting, like novice just being, shocked by everything, and he's so willing to learn. And it's just interesting to see how over time, because the journals, do end before he gets really bitter and sour. Or at least it came out properly. But yeah, it's just a very interesting journal. Like it doesn't have the big grandeur of like an Arthur Phillip or Watkins Tench or whoever, Captain Cook. But there's something really interesting about these other officers and surgeons who were on the First Fleet. And what they experienced too. It's just very good. And yeah, that's your little Oslet oh my god, AusBook for today, the Journals of John White. Go check it out. You can find it anywhere. And we're not done with First Fleet journals left. We've got a couple more to go, and then we'll eventually move out of the 1700s. But yeah, go check out John White's journals. They're really good. So yeah, thank you so much for watching BookTube, and I will see you next time.